Good fight this was. It was actually worth watching. So Emmanuel Navarrete, I believe how you pronounce it, defeats Isaac Dogboe on a 12-round unanimous decision. This was a pretty good fight. Isaac Dogboe, I've spoken about him on the channel before. I think he's quite good. In this fight, he definitely didn't look good at all. I had this fight close to an extent going into the championship rounds, going into the 9th and the 10th. But after that, pretty much, it was Navarrete with a clean sweep of the last 4 rounds. I scored this fight watching it. I've only watched it this morning. I scored this fight 116-112, which is in line with the judges for Emmanuel Navarrete. I know the Box Nation team, and I watched it with Top Rank commentary. They all had Navarrete's way ahead. I mean, you can make a case for him winning, but I think they had him 118-110. There was some rounds that were kind of the tale of two halves, and I just preferred Isaac Dogboe's work. Like, we'll say the 4th round, and I think it was maybe the 6th or the 7th. It was one of them rounds I gave to Dogboe, just because it was a kind of 50-50 round, and I think Dogboe's work was just a little bit kind of more eye-catching in them rounds. But take nothing away from Emmanuel Navarrete. He was boxed out of his skin, fought fantastically well. Used his height and reach, which you don't see a lot of Mexican fighters use. And I believe this was his first fight ever out of Mexico. And Isaac Dogboe, for those who don't know, is 5'2". He is short, even by super bantamweight standards. He is a very, very short fighter. And a lot of people were making noise that maybe he didn't do the weight properly, that he had a very bad preparation in his camp, that his dad was in Ghana one week and he was flying over and back to the UK and then over to America. Variety of things. At the end of the day, he was beaten by the better man tonight, definitely. I think Isaac Dogboe's nose was bashed up pretty early on. He had lots of cuts on his face. The doctor was checking on him with him, I think, after the 5th round. Emmanuel Navarrete, I think he might have hurt his hand midway through the fight, his right hand, because he was throwing the right hand a lot. And one thing I noticed, Isaac Dogboe was squaring up a lot in this fight, squaring up, coming in, getting ready to load, and he was walking into uppercuts early on in the fight. I noticed that straight away. He was no lateral movement. He's like a Sean Porter. He's like a smaller Sean Porter, but nowhere near as good. That's the best way I can describe Dogboe. Smaller Sean Porter, nowhere near as good. And yeah, he was walking into shots very early on. And you could tell straight away in this fight that Isaac Dogboe was not that he wasn't going to win, but that he was, not himself. And late on in the fight, he was tired, he was getting beaten, he was just looking to hold on and grab, he was down a few times from slips, probably from the beating he took, probably from the fatigue, probably from everything. So, it was a horrible performance from Isaac Dogboe. He was minorly competitive, but nowhere near enough. And I think that I'm assuming Emmanuel Navarrete had a hand injury midway through the fight. Had he not injured his hand, he probably would have stopped them. Definitely. Because I think Dogboe was hurt a few times in this fight as early as the 2nd round. And, the writing was on the wall from early on. So, it was a good performance from Emmanuel Navarrete. Never heard of him, never seen him. He's, I believe, 28-1 or something like that. I think the only loss he has, because I seen him on BoxRec, was kind of like a prize fighter fight in Mexico. So if you want to count that, you can. I mean, obviously, it's on his record, but it's not really a loss when you think of it. It's in some tournament, a pro tournament. And it even says on BoxRec that he was crowned the winner because the guy didn't turn up for the weigh-in. So that kind of says what kind of a joke fight that was. But yeah, no, he looked good. He's big for the weight, definitely. He had to strip off naked, I believe, to make the weight. Navarrete did. Isaac Dogboe weighed in at 120, which, normally when you see a fighter come in a pound or two underweight, it means they're not struggling, normally. But possibly, he got his preparation wrong and he took too much weight off. I've heard people say that maybe he should move up to featherweight. I don't know. I mean, he is small by super bantamweight standards. The more he goes up, the bigger these guys are going to get, the harder it's going to be. So I don't really know. I really don't know what to make of it, what Isaac Dogboe should do from here. Maybe he needs to regroup, take some time off. He's going to need to, because he did take a fair old beating in this fight. So I think he's going to take some time off, have a look at himself and decide what he wants to do next. But yeah, it was a good fight, good performance. I would encourage people to go watch that fight. It was a very good fight. And those are my thoughts on this. I watched the Kell Brook fight last night. I'm not going to do a video on it. It was, it was a here and here fight. So if you're not seeing a Kell Brook post fight, it was nothing really to talk about in that fight. It was clockwork. He looked rusty, Kell Brook, though, to be fair. But back to this fight. Isaac Dogboe. Don't know what he's going to do. Emmanuel Navarrete, I think, he could be good. You've got guys in super bantamweight like, what's the guy's name? Daniel Roman. I think that's how you pronounce it. He fought Gavin McDonald a little while back. And you've got Ray Vargas. And I'm not sure who else you have in that division. But, it's a division that, the names don't jump out at you, but I'm sure all the fighters are good. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on this, and feel free to leave yours down below.